Hi, this is Ashish R. Bidekar, and welcome to my podcast, The ARB Show. It's my honor to introduce my guest for today's episode, Marc Naddell. I had the privilege of working in his team on two occasions. Firstly, in Navtech, now called here, and secondly, in Mediatek. Marc has built high performance global organizations in technology companies, from navigational technologies to IoT to AI chipsets. And he has over 20 patents to his credit. He's a true leader and mentor, a testament to the fact that we had over 70% of our erstwhile Navtech team join the virtual reunion that Marc organized. And seriously, let's ask yourself, how many times do you feel like attending a similar event organized by your ex-boss? That's the that's the best I could say. He's now an entrepreneur and founder of an executive mentoring startup called MyT.coach. Welcome to the show, Marc. Do introduce yourself, cover your life journey and vision of MyT.coach.
Okay, thank you, Ashish. Well, first let me say it's great to be on a podcast with you. I always enjoyed working with you, and you've always brought a lot to the table whenever you were on my teams. And especially after, now that I observed your progress with PicoNets and your other ventures. So it's always been wonderful to work with you and have you as a member of my team. I still remember when both times you led for different organizations, the India operations for business development. And then in Mediatek, we expanded that to be Asia, right? So India plus covering many other countries in Asia. So I really enjoyed watching how you grew and how you built your teams and how you led and how you drove exciting new business possibilities in your roles.
Thank you, Marc. I said I was learning from the best.
I don't think I'm the best, but I always strive to be better. Let's just say that. So I guess my journey is unorthodox. It starts from, my early days, childhood formation, having grown up somewhat in Switzerland and somewhat in the United States, and then pursuing a business degree. I actually have 3 business degrees now, a master's at University of Chicago, but 2 undergrads in marketing. So I'm what you would say like a pure marketing professional, right? That's always been my focus and my leaning, is how to drive awareness and transactions with whatever it is I'm working with. It's a platform, it's a device, it's a system solution, it's software. And my earliest career experiences were with a company called Motorola, a wireless leader, especially in two-way radios and telecommunications. Most people know it from a consumer perspective as the one of the companies that drove growth in cellular phones, right? But we were also an infrastructure provider and public safety and military government communications provider, and also a semiconductor company, which was later spun off into its own entity. And I've worked in all those parts of the company, and it was one of the things that was driven by my need to always be working on new things. I always wanted to work on the cutting edge, the leading edge of anything I was going to work on, because I'm a creative person. And, for me, what drives my passions and unlocks my energy to do great things is to work on something where I'm charting a new path. I'm innovating, right? I'm having to encounter new barriers and figure out ways to overcome those. And in the wireless world at Motorola back in the late 80s, it was before we could imagine having broadband piped to children on tablets, right? And now that's just a commonplace thing. You have a 4-year-old kid and you're going to go on a long trip, you hand them a tablet and they connect to LTE and they're doing all kinds of cool stuff. Some are creating their own worlds in Minecraft. Who would have imagined that in 1989, right? So, but I knew that's where I would have lots of opportunities to learn and to contribute. From there, I was recruited to Nokia, and it was mostly because of my work in developing software-based ecosystems on platforms. And they saw what I had done with Motorola, which was pretty much behind Nokia by maybe 5 years or so in their thinking about creating ecosystems. But they saw some programs I created there that were leveraging the strengths of Motorola and overcoming their weaknesses in terms of tools and community and marketing expenditures to create that developer ecosystem. And so they recruited me and said, we like the programs you're creating there. It's like one thing we don't have that would really take us to the next level. And so I came in and I created a whole range of new programs optimized around different segments of developers that serve different roles in the ecosystem. And Form Nokia exploded from under 1 million developers to over 4 million developers within just 3 years. And it was because of these different compelling programs, created visibility, created traction for new products and new platforms, and also aggregated all of these great, wonderful apps. That was back in like 2003, 2004. And then from there, I was recruited again by one of our partner companies called Mediatek. They were one of our partner companies in that Nokia ecosystem, and they were experiencing all the benefits of having been one of these key partners in navigation technologies. And they'd come to our ecosystem events and they said, we're just a 1,500 person company, but we have plenty of profits to reinvest in our business, and we think for the next wave of where we're going in the company, in the business, we need developers. We're great with the car companies, we're great with the personal navigation device companies, but we really need more jet fuel into what we're doing with web and with mobile and with these other new areas where location can add benefits. So they recruited me from Nokia, and they gave me a blank slate, which is perfect. And they said, nobody's really doing this in location right now. How do we do this? What do you need? And so I created a plan, an architecture and a roadmap, and I said, this is where we should start. This is where we need to invest, and then this is where we're going to get to. And it's exactly that kind of ABC. They let me hire my team. Ashish was one of those key hires. He was based in Mumbai, and he was going to be like the leader out in Asia to help us cultivate that market, as well as to source innovation and developers and apps that we could bring to the customers around the world in the different channels. And that became such a fun experience. I have to say that was my favorite work experience of all time, was being able to create a team, 45 people or so, cross-functional, located around the world. And what really made it so fun was having a powerful work culture. People that saw the vision and were acknowledged for what they brought to the table, and creating a spirit of collaboration where we could express our ideas, express our disagreements, work through those, and then unite together on what was the plan of record to drive results and to be metrics and feedback oriented in order to keep improving and understanding our progress and where we could still improve. So that was a wonderful experience. And then we were acquired by Nokia for $8 billion, which back in 2008 was a lot of money to pay for a software company, believe it or not. I think within the same year, Chrysler was acquired for about under $3 billion. We were bought for $8 billion. So it was tremendous for all us employees. After Mediatek, I moved to California. I was based in Chicago before that, and Finland with Nokia. I was based there, if you want to know. And I started my own company then. I started a consulting company that was focused on ecosystem consulting for companies that didn't have an ecosystem and wanted to know how to do it. So I would create, understand what the situation was, what their industry looked like, and then come up with a plan unique to them on how they could plant that seed, nurture it, and then pluck the fruits from what they'd invested in. And one of those companies was Mediatek, and Mediatek, is a chipset company, and they had no experience with developers, but they knew for IoT, it wasn't going to be about going and finding a company that was already shipping tens of millions of devices and fighting for that contract to create their chipsets. It was going to be about attracting tens of thousands of little companies all innovating in niches around IoT. And they needed a developer-facing ecosystem solution. So I came in, designed that for them, and then after my 3 years contract was up, I went back to my consulting business. And ever since then, when I came back to my consulting business, my partners had turned it into a recruiting company. So they did consulting, but more recruiting for high potential talent for fast-growing companies. A lot of startups and companies that were globalizing from a region into something multi-regional. And one of the interesting angles that they had innovated on is they had coached a lot of their candidates in how to present themselves better and make a big impact early on in their new assignments. And those candidates wanted continue the coaching and development. They found it so wonderful that we spun out that business into MyT.coach, which is this big red thing here, MyT, MYT, MyT.coach, right? So that's what I started, and we've recruited a wonderful group of coaches from all different kinds of backgrounds and orientations, and we have around 2,000 or so clients in the community that participate with our coaches. And we do things like free webinars on a Tuesday night, California time. We do different types of classes and workshops, small group coaching. And then our members can also engage coaches in one-on-one coaching. So that's where I am today, having a lot of fun. So I'm the managing director of ROCS Global. That's our B2B company that does recruiting and consulting. And I'm the CEO and co-founder of MyT.coach, which is a coaching platform. And we work with coaches from various organizations, like with Stanford and with Columbia. Now we have some engagements to bring on new coaches from there as well to continue to refresh and keep up with the demand for our services. Okay, sorry to cut you off there.
No, that's a really an exciting and fantastic overview. And I think, as you rightly mentioned, that technology is really changing and it's becoming more ecosystem and developer-led kind of vertical. And with your rich experience, I think you're the right person to kind of guide our audience on things like navigating your career in these turbulent times, right? Because we have seen the choppy waters. But at the same time, it's important to be steady and patient and ensure that you have the kind of passion and the discipline to overcome it. Because as someone said, silent seas never made a master mariner, right?
That's right.
That's true. So as we discussed, it would be great if you could, highlight some of the top 3 do's and don'ts. But specifically on how people can navigate their career in these turbulent times. Over to you, Mark. Maybe let's start with the do's first.
Yes. Before we jump into the do's, I want to say, because I've always pursued new challenges, especially like pioneering types of opportunities, introducing new paradigms, new business models, as soon as a product was approaching maturity or an offering reaches maturity, that's the time I lose passion for that space, because I'm a creator and I'm drawn to opportunities to bring ideas in and to experiment and to feel like you've created something when you're finished. And so quite frequently you will taste some challenges, you will taste some defeats, because not all of these new areas are going to pan out as an industry. Even they're not going to take off. And sometimes the pioneer, the first company to bring something in and have initial successes, may not be the one that wins at the end, not because they didn't have great ideas, but perhaps they're in a company with a huge cash cow and they don't see the near-term returns as interesting as continuing to fuel big cash cows. And so your initial lead might eventually get swallowed by the second place or even the third place contenders. And that's quite frustrating. And what you have to do is be resilient So you will develop a strong sense of resilience when you put yourself at the front. And that's another thing I could talk about forever is what are some key factors to be resilient when you have, when you've been tossed out or you hit the ground, and with your best efforts, you have to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and be energized and look for the next challenge. So an interesting fact is when you look at sports, usually the record holders in each sport, the people who hold all the records, usually have records not only in tremendous achievements, but also in failures. Like I'm a big U.S. Football fan, and the people who throw the most touchdowns also have the most interceptions, right? And that's because when you're competing at your level, you are going up against the best or whoever's at your level, right? And I'm assuming people dialing into this podcast are trying to be the best or be contenders, whatever they're doing. So you're going to be always competing with other people who are also ambitious and educated and talented. So you can't expect to win every time. So you must be resilient and understand it was best just to be in the ring and contending than to be just a spectator, right? So that I would say that before I move on to the do's, all right?
A very, very valid and very inspiring message. Resilience is key to everything. In fact, I have the mental map or a mental image of a honey badger, which is supposedly the most badass animal out there, right? So even the lions and hyenas, they kind of stay away. So never give up is something which is very crucial. Sorry, over to you. Maybe let's start with the first do.
And it's all about trying to focus your career with two dimensions. Find an area where you have tremendous passion. It could be an industry, like entertainment industry. I love to work in entertainment industry, then that's your passion. Try to find something there. And then, or it could be a function. I love marketing, I like marketing products. Get into that role. Then it doesn't matter so much what the industry is, as long as you get to be working with the tools and the skills that you really like to use. The second dimension is try to find an area where you have some kind of talent or capability, right? So if you have the passion and you have some level of talent, you have a very great chance of achieving your goals and being very satisfied in your day-to-day work activity. So now, let's talk about the do's. So when you're in turbulent times, your company is in turbulent times, the industry you're in is in turbulent times, the economy that you're living in is having turbulent times. Those are like three different levels. It could even be like your personal department, or sometimes it's even like you get a new boss, you have the best job you've ever enjoyed, and then you inherit a boss who doesn't appreciate your function, doesn't have a good chemistry with you, or maybe they're just a terrible person, they're just not a good leader. In any case, that's at a very micro level. That's turbulent, right? So different levels of turbulence. The first thing you have to do is be visible. Don't become invisible, right? Engage with others at work and don't ignore one-on-one engagement. Coffee breaks, information sessions, info sharing, collaboration, syncing with work partners. It's great to have some 360-degree horizontally, 360-degree vertically visibility. So being visible is also getting visibility into the grapevine, what they see going on, what the priorities are as communicated by different leaders to them. So as you're doing your work, you can course correct and you can also inform people what are the valuable things you're doing. And I don't mean one-on-one only with peers. You also need to go up strategically and try to find sponsors and support, because when the big leaders get together and say we have to cut 20% of our staff, you want multiple opinion leaders in that circle to say, no, Mark's working on this really key thing. Oh, I see Mark really drove this thing over here with my team. We need Mark, right? Or Mark has got great insights, as reported by, my key contributor over here.
Got it.
So how you do that when you're engaging and when you're info sharing, it's good to share your results, share your contributions, share your impacts. It's important that you can share, oh, our team did this and this team did that, but you don't want to be just a reporter of news. You want to be a reporter of news where you're somewhere in the story doing something important to that team's outcomes. So you say, our team did this, and my part was that. Yeah, we've collaborated with this team over here, with this leader here, and I was, providing the data and processing the analysis of the results. I was providing the feedback from the customers, right? This kind of thing.
Very excellent. I think that's a very nice comment. So essentially, don't be a cell in an Excel sheet, right? Or a brick in the wall, right? Stand outside, makes creative value. That's great. Coming to the second do's, what would be your advice from a second do perspective?
So while you're executing, while you're doing those activities, networking and sharing your results and being visible, it's also to continue to execute in your role. Keep your foot on the gas, drive results on your projects. Don't assume just because things are being reevaluated from a strategy or operational level that the results don't matter anymore, that the die has been cast. The die has never been cast until the final decisions are made. So continue to keep your foot on the gas. It's also important to keep investing in your skills and your professional network. So your career does have a future if you decide it does. If you let fate determine if you have a future or not, you probably will end up with very different outcome than what you want. So there's many times where our business was turbulent, and I would go and take classes. I always try to take classes at a nearby university. I wouldn't stop doing that. I live right across the street from Stanford University, and every year I take at least one interesting class to help sharpen my skills or expose myself to a new way of doing things. And I would suggest you do the same, because it will energize you, it will give you hope, and it will strengthen your spirit. Regardless of the outcome, you will know, you will have new skills, and you will be able to bring some of those new skills at a time of turbulence to make change and impact.
Right. And again, as someone mentioned, now is the time and the space wherein, yes, you need to have a core competence, but you also need to be like a Swiss Army knife, right? You can do, for example, some things of, let's say, account-based management. You have done some webinars, so some digital skills. A good mix of multiple things is crucial without losing sight of what you want to do. Very, very valid point.
Yeah. So Swiss Army knife is a good analogy for being willing to do anything, right? To not look at barriers to what you currently know as the end. Right? But another thing is to constantly be learning. So when I started in my career, I was a marketing person coming into a highly technical environment, working on two-way radios, wireless devices. And I went from there to learn cellular technology. I had to study and learn. Cellular is quite different than two-way radio wireless that police, fire, public safety use, right? And then from that, I had to learn about like 3G, and then from there going to Nokia, I had to learn about platforms, software platforms, and how the tools work and developers create applications and how the distribution channels for that work. And then from there, I had to go learn about semiconductor chips, right, and how those work and all the different terms and technologies and the metrics and specifications and how to articulate those. And then from there, it was about IoT, which was more than just the chipset. It was about the cloud and all the, different networks that had to be accessed for on-site versus macro. And then AI. My last technology stop was learning how does AI work and how do you do edge versus cloud, AI. So, just keep investing in yourself.
Excellent. So what would be the final top third do of the things to do?
So the other one is manage your emotion. So it's akin to EQ, being able to not overreact. There's a lot of folks that they don't understand that being calm helps you not only be a better leader, it helps you be a better contributor, to stay focused and deliver your tasks and hone in on the priorities that your organization needs you to deliver. And your positive energy and your focus is contagious. Just like the negative energy is contagious. It's like the dark side and the light side of the force, right? You have to be that shining light for the people around you and deliver and encourage people to deliver and praise them for staying focused. If you come to the table saying, hey, I've got this project I'm working on, it can help drive your results, let's work together, it's contagious. So manage your emotions. Don't overreact.
Excellent. No, I think that's a very, very valid observation because, even in turbulent times, if you're seen as a calm and a mature professional, you will also attract talent, right? Or you'll attract people who want to work with you, right? Because your presence would be a calming experience or a calming effect on the team, right? And that's what people want, right? For example, just it's akin to when we are kids, when you kind of have a fall, you go to your parents, run to your parents, and someone soothes you, right, with some calming words. Extrapolate that to a corporate culture when everything's floppy. So the people who kind of are seen as resolute, silent, patient, and giving out positive vibes are seen as leaders, right? And they're like lighthouses to steer the ship. Excellent. So let's go to the don'ts, right? So in your view, what is the top 3 don'ts for anyone?
Well, the first one is perhaps the hardest one, is not to get into the gossiping or complaining spiral. Because if you engage in that, it's so easy. People will come up and say, oh gosh, another reorg, blah, blah, blah. It's easy to jump in. And then you get into the spiral because that person, every time they see you, they're going to want to talk about that again, right? So how to keep things positive is to avoid falling into that trap. Because that generates negative energy. It's contagious, it's cancerous, and it's also adhesive. It's sticky. Once you have that conversation with a person, they want to bring it up all the time, right? So while it serves no purpose, it will consume all the time and energy you two or your group could be putting into progress and achievement and expanding and contributing. And also the damage to your personal brand will persist and could precede you, which is harmful.
Excellent. Let's move to the next don'ts.
Okay, so don't overreact to what's going on around you. Even when there's like a big announcement, a layoff or reorg, new leadership. So don't overreact. Don't go into shock and stick your head in the sand. Like to withdraw from all those one-on-one meetings and all that visibility I suggested you do. Don't hope you'll be lucky to survive, because when your head is in your sand, your backside's in the air, and that's dangerous. You don't want that.
True. What would be the last don'ts in your perspective?
My last is keep things in perspective. So don't lose that. Don't give up on your own confidence or your faith in yourself and your abilities. So even when you fall flat on your face, as I said before, the record holders in most sports are record holders not only in their achievements, but also in their errors on the field, right? So don't, because you have one error or a string of errors because of a turbulent environment, give up on your faith. Remember, you got where you are because of your persistence and your skills, and you still have those. Those are things no one can ever take from you.
Excellent.
And don't fall into black and white thinking. It's not always success and failure. Sometimes there's degrees. You might be 60% successful, 70%. But guess what? In turbulent times, that's that might be all you need because other people are at 30% success or 10% success. As long as you kept your foot on the gas, stayed focused and prioritized and positive, you have a best chance of getting through whatever you're dealing with.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks, Mark. I think this gives a great perspective. And thank you, dear listeners. Thank you for tuning in. The presentation would be there in the show call notes, along with some bonus content, which you should definitely check. Bye for now. Talk to you soon. Bye.